It has been 100 years since then, no human touch, no sense of the outer world, just me and this fearful captivity. How long? These were the words being scribbled by a man on a piece of paper as he sat at a wooden table in the center of a small disoriented room. A flickering lamp was kept by his side, and he kept adjusting its intensity often to ward off darkness. Presumably in his mid-50s, the man had an unkempt growth of beard and was clad in a tattered shawl, quite conflicting with the look of an elegant gentleman, his mysterious eyes failing to hide. As he was about to crumble and throw the paper away, he saw something from his window, which made him smile, probably for the first time in the past 100 years. He quickly came out of the old cottage into the little courtyard covered with dense undergrowth of thickets, from where he could see the forest all around and the beautiful cloud-capped sky. They were as inseparable to him as his hands and feet. But what was unnatural that evening was the figure of a man walking towards the cottage with careful steps along the narrow path. He was a young gentleman, handsome, clean-shaven, attired in ordinary clothes, and had an earthen pot in his hand. "Do you live in this house, sir?" asked the young man. "Yes, this house is mine." "Who are you?" Romano Alabaster. From the little town of Mercies." "And what makes you come here, to this forsaken place?" "People say that there is a hidden treasure in this cottage, buried deep down. Gold coins and priceless pieces of heritage." "Is that true? So you've come in search of treasure, O fearless one." "But I didn't know that it has got a dutiful protector. They say this place is enchanted. No one enters the forest in fear of spirits. But I decided to uncover the truth. We live in a twilight world, my son. Before you reach the truth, it disappears into broad daylight. Greed is a dangerous thing here." "Sir, do you think greed hypnotized me?" "No. Greed is such a lavish term for people drowning in poverty. I lost my parents when I was a kid. My uncle raised me up, and one day, he too mysteriously disappeared. I am a poor worker in the mills, laughed at by the rich. Is it a curse to be rich in your twilight world? It isn't a boon to be rich either. Do you wish to hear my story, Romano?" They sat upon the stairs of the cottage, the cool breezes gently blowing in. The sun had set long ago. They sat upon the stairs of the cottage, the cool breezes gently blowing in. The sun had set long ago. "My name is Tuscan. I was just like you, another child of fortune, whom she never cared about. We were 3 brothers and 1 sister, brought up by a struggling single mother. We've seen poverty you can't even imagine. Our mother was a great devotee of our ancestral god, though we, her children, were non-believers. Instead, we worshipped her as a goddess. But one day, fate decided to turn her we. Unable to repay her loans, the mother hanged herself, and we were driven away from work, left to starve in the biting cold. Our world was crumbling down. And in such a situation, I committed a sin. What was it? I killed my siblings for a huge sum of money. I shouldn't have. Till today, I repent for my actions." "Then, let's go inside the house. A storm's coming," Tuscan said, looking at the sky. "Sure. But before that, I need you to do something. Pick up the sack from that corner and burn it up in the courtyard. Those are papers I no longer need." Romano did as commanded without asking questions and went into the cottage. It seemed like an age-old settlement, dusty and filled with cobwebs. The bed, the cupboards, and the armchair all seemed to have been unused for ages. Suddenly, amidst all other objects, Romano's eyes fell upon a framed photograph on the wall. It was none other than Tuscan's, themed in black and white, and candles were glowing in front of it as a silent offering to the dead. A cold shudder ran down his spine. That's me in my youthful days. Come, let me tell you the last part of my story, Tuscan said from behind. Romano was no longer in a state to reply. He was bereft of words. The wrath of the gods might have fallen upon me. I was cursed with a lifetime imprisonment in my own house with all its wealth, the cursed treasure smeared with unspoken sins and with solitude. The villagers left this place, and stories of ghosts and spirits spread like wildfire. Since then, I've spent 100 years here, like a prisoner, amidst these wild animals and the westerlies. Finally, when you came today, I felt happiness after such a long time. But why? Romano's voice was barely a whisper. Because there was a clause to my curse. I would have only been served freedom if a man as greedy as me ever came to this twilight world in search of my treasure. And it's you now, Romano, it's your turn to be caged in the shackles of death. Romano, terribly frightened, started stepping backward slowly but stumbled and fell. Tuscan laughed devilishly and said, "Don't worry, you couldn't have escaped. After all, you yourself burnt the key, a little metallic one that could have saved you from this world." "Me?" Romano asked, rubbing the sweat off his forehead. "Yes, don't you remember the sack I asked you to burn a little while ago? I warned you, son, greed is a dangerous thing in the world we live in." Saying so, Tuscan laughed even more villainously and, leaving Romano imprisoned by the curse, walked off into the dense forest as a free spirit, vanishing into the night. Romano screamed in pain and fear, but there was no one to listen to except the vast indifference of nature. Romano woke up all of a sudden from his sleep. It was his own room in the little town of Mercedes. There was darkness all around, but there was no sign of Tuscan. Had he been dreaming all this while? What a brutal dream! The Twilight World was a part of his unnamed fears then, residing silently within his mind. It was 3:30 in the night. He had to get up early the next morning to set off for the mills. As he was about to go back to sleep, there was a knock at his door. He hurriedly went to open it, but there was no one outside. He looked here and there for a moment, and as he was about to close the door, he saw there was something kept at his doorstep. He looked closely. To his surprise and utmost terror, there was a little metallic key, along with a note: "Before you reach the truth, it disappears into broad daylight, doesn't it?"